brand new update to discuss around Alvin Kamara here on Saints Now, presented by Prize Picks. This one coming from NFL insider Mike Garafolo, dropping some information, and we're going to break it on down right now. The brand new update. Mike Garafolo of NFL Network spoke with Alvin Kamara's agent, Brad Sakala, who told him, quote, "We plan on playing for the Saints in 2026. And Garafolo added this to that update. There hasn't been a lot of traction yet on the Saints' direction with Alvin Kamara, but there is some interest in potentially coming back there. Maybe they can do a revised deal. We're going to talk about the revised deal. We're going to talk about everything around Alvin Kamara. Make sure that you are informed as Saints fans. But before we do that, I want to hear from you, Who Dat Nation. What's your one-word reaction to the Alvin Kamara update? I'm about to tell you mine, but it's your turn to sound off in the comment section. Are you happy? Does it make you nervous? Are you confused? I'm going to tell you my one word right now. I feel like this says to me commitment. Committed is the word that I'm going to use to describe this update. Alvin Kamara and his party and his representation, they are very clearly committed to the New Orleans Saints. But it's not necessarily obvious that the Saints are committing to Alvin Kamara, which is kind of why this whole situation is weird. We've seen Kamara go on the Set podcast with Teron Armstead. We've seen him be very vocal about how he wants to return to New Orleans. He'd rather retire than play anywhere else, go sip pina coladas on a beach than play anywhere else. He wants to be a New Orleans Saint. That has not changed whatsoever. But the Saints, throughout this entire process of trying to figure out what Alvin Kamara's future is going to be, have been very uncommittal and haven't really been clear with their side of things. Alvin Kamara's message is clear, but the New Orleans Saints have not. Now, Albert Breer, he added this, the other day we discussed it on the channel. I believe Alvin Kamara wants to finish his career in New Orleans, as he said publicly. Also, I believe there's a team out in Denver that would be interested if that's not in the cards. Now, obviously, this will now become a post-June 1 move. This always has been something that would have been addressed post-June 1 after the New Orleans Saints restructured his contract back in March, utilizing the 50% rule. We're going to explain that later in this video. It's very, very confusing. It's kind of new accounting and stuff, but basically, if Alvin Kamara is cut, the Saints save $376,000 and eat $10.1 million in 2026. If he's traded, the Saints actually save $3.4 million and eat $7.1 million, making it a little bit more financially responsible to trade him rather than cut him. But the Saints are seeking to lower the cap hit after that restructure, and for what it's worth, once you alter someone's contract, especially in the way that the Saints did, you can't use the June 1st designation anymore, so they had to wait until June 1. We are now at June 2nd, so things can obviously start happening and decisions could be made in the near future. But when Mickey Loomis talked about all this, he says it comes down to resource management. Quote, we're just trying to see how he's going to fit on the roster. Obviously, there's a resource management element. We'll get to that over the next week or two. That was about a week or two ago, so we're expecting updates here at some point, but the future, to me, it sounds like it's going to come down to finances. Obviously, if Kamara is around, there could be a role for him on the offense, being the guy in a committee with Travis Etienne Jr., but you also have to figure out, is he going to be on the books and for how much? And if you can't figure out a pay cut situation or a revised deal, then there is a real world where there is a split in the future. I'm just totally honest, ready for this to be done. I'm just so beyond ready for this situation to be resolved at this point. I don't want to say I don't care what the resolution is, because I do care, but I'm just kind of ready for an answer at this point. I'm tired of hearing new updates that are just like, yeah, well, he wants to be here. Yeah, he wants to be here. Yeah, he wants to be here. And I know y'all are tired of the same thing and me talking about it, but that's what we know. We're talking about all the new things that we learn, and it's just very apparent. We keep learning that Alvin Kamara is committed to being in New Orleans, but the Saints aren't necessarily committed to Alvin Kamara being in New Orleans. Now, what would you do, and what should the Saints do with AK? Type K for keep, type T for trade. Sound off in the comment section. I want to hear from you. If you're a Mickey Loomis and you were the Saints front office, how would you resolve this situation? We're going to talk a little bit more about Alvin Kamara's contract, going into the 50% rule and talking about what it could look like if he does end up getting moved. But first, we got to say thank you to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Shout out to Prize Picks for making this show from Saints Now by Chat Sports possible. It's America's #1 sports picks app. It's because it's the best place to win cash while watching your favorite teams. You can put your ball knowledge to the test whether you're watching football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, esports, racing, darts, cricket, tennis, doesn't matter. Golf, they have it all. You can win money while watching your favorite teams, your favorite athletes, and your favorite sports over on Prize Picks. And we got a pretty sweet deal for you. $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup when you plug in that promo code HMA. Here's an example of how Prize Picks works. I got this lineup here for the NBA Finals. Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, and Stephon Castle. I took the more on all of their projections because I believe life is too short to project the less. I put $10 down to win $60. Hopefully I cash in here in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. And you can do the same over on Prize Picks. Download the app today by clicking the link in the comments or description of this video and plug in that promo code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup over on Prize Picks. Shout out to Prize Picks where it's good to be right. Alrighty, I want to talk about the resolution here because we just discussed how I'm ready for this situation to be resolved. Well, the resolution is one of two things. Either Alvin Kamara takes a pay cut and agrees to make less money to stick around in New Orleans and he puts his money where his mouth is, or he doesn't agree to that and the Saints end up trading him. Like, there's really only two paths that make sense to me in terms of realistically what is the best for this team. I think cutting him wouldn't be the smartest thing in the world, but I think when it comes down to a resolution for Alvin Kamara, trade him or agree to a pay cut. Those are the two things, in my opinion, that make the most sense. Now, remember, Alvin Kamara's contract and that restructure was extremely unique. We're going to pull up a couple of tweets from Nick Underhill to kind of explain the 50% rule. Reminder, the Saints have never done this type of restructure. This is a really, really weird rule. It's very new accounting, so all of us are trying to figure it out here, but here's Underhill's recap on it. The 50% rule does calculate a little bit differently than a normal signing bonus dead money would with a transaction. This year, a June 1 cut would basically do nothing to the cap, but it would lower next year's cap commitment a bit, not by $14 million. If his understanding is correct, effectively would wipe out $2 million per year proration from 2027 to 2030, so approximately $8 million in that regard. So if you were to do anything with it, this is the 50% rule. This is how this works. Once you alter somebody's contract, you cannot use the June 1 designation anymore. So they couldn't actually physically cut Alvin Kamara or do anything until now. So that's why this June 1 date was important. Now we're post June 1. Now we're kind of all on watch to see what the New Orleans Saints ultimately decide. Because, again, this is a very clear situation where the New Orleans Saints are not committing to Alvin Kamara, but Alvin Kamara is committing to the Saints. He very clearly wants to be here. And to be totally honest, when it comes down to whether or not Alvin Kamara is going to return, I actually really wouldn't be surprised either way because, one, I wouldn't be shocked if he returns. He's a fan favorite. He's going to put butts in seats. He loves playing in New Orleans. He wants to be a New Orleans Saint, and I think that he makes the team better. And I would love to see a Travis Etienne Jr. and Alvin Kamara backfield, but I also wouldn't be shocked if the Saints say, you know what, we have been closing the chapters from the past all off season. We are trying to head into the future. We're trying to build for the long term to get that sustained success that we all want. And maybe it's time that we just move on, put everything in the past, and focus on the future. It doesn't mean that either one of those is the better option. I just have to say I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut, traded, or he takes a pay cut at this point. Like, I really could see any of those things happening. This entire situation has just been weird, to be totally honest. Like, I wish that we'd get a little bit more clarity from New Orleans in terms of, like, the front office. It's very obvious. Alvin Kamara is willing to stick around in New Orleans. He wants to stick around in New Orleans. I believe that he would work with the Saints. I don't know if he'd take a pay cut down to the vet minimum, but, you know, if he can lower the cap hit significantly, then yeah, we could see him back. But this entire situation has been so weird. I think the Saints have handled this in such an odd way. And to be honest, it's really not a deadline for a decision to be made. Like, we are now at post-June 1, so now the sirens are going off and the spotlight is on this Alvin Kamara situation, but there's not really a deadline for a decision. I mean, we could go all the way up until week 1 before something happens with Alvin Kamara. I mean, we could see him go through mandatory minicamp, go through training camp, go through the preseason, be with the Saints, and then, during training camp, injury pops up and team needs a running back, they trade him away then. Like, there's a lot of ways that this could all go down, but a date that I will suggest that you watch and pay attention to is the start of mandatory minicamp on June 16th. We all know that Alvin Kamara likes to prepare for the season away from the team. That's not abnormal. That's not unusual. That's what he's always done for the non-mandatory parts of the offseason activities. But when it comes to mandatory minicamp and training camp, that's whenever he typically shows up and starts being around. And my question is, why would we have Alvin Kamara show up if they don't want him around this season? Like, why wouldn't they have at least communicated, go seek a trade, go, see what's out there. We just don't have a role for you. Like, why would they bring him in if he's not going to be on the team? Like, I even saw Mike Triplett talk about this whole situation too. Like, it's kind of the same thing that he said. Like, they're not going to bring him in just to say, all right, we're cutting you a couple weeks. Like, see ya. Like, this doesn't make a total sense. So that's why I'm more inclined to think a trade is more likely. The Saints could wait until after June 16th to make a move. Like, it could happen later in the summer. Like I said, training camp, injuries could pop up, preseason, injuries could pop up. You can go all the way through it, see how it works with the roster, see if the running back duo makes sense, and if it works. And then if it doesn't, maybe you make a decision and get him off the roster and he's no longer a part of the mix. Or you realize, okay, this is what we want, and he's sticking around, and that's whenever the pay cut happens. Like, this is something that could drag along for quite some time. And I hate that that's the case, but that's just the reality of the situation. And when it comes to Alvin Kamara, I just genuinely do believe the Saints are a better team with him in the mix. Like, you look at the running back room, I think having Alvin Kamara be the running back by committee with Travis Etienne is so much better than having Devin Neal or Kendre Miller. No disrespect to those players, but having Alvin Kamara be your secondary option as a rushing threat is a really good problem to have. That means you're always going to have great legs, a lot of juice, and an explosive player that's ready to get on the field. Like, I just cannot sit here and say that a running back committee with Alvin Kamara is worse than a running back committee with Devin Neal or Kendre Miller. Again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful as players, but Alvin Kamara is a great football player. I think, still has some juice in the tank. I'm not going to say he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, and I don't think he's going to be competing to take snaps away from Travis Etienne. I think it's more of a throw Etienne in, throw Alvin Kamara in, we can see what happens. But at the end of the day, realistically, you also have to consider they both have very similar skill sets, so maybe you do want to make a change to the running back room and have a different look in terms of your rushing attack. Now, final thoughts here, as we do with most of these videos. I just think it would suck to lose Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, and Taysom Hill all in the same offseason. I mean, other teams in the NFC South are probably celebrating that all of these legends are now out of New Orleans or could be all gone in one offseason. As a fan, that blows. Like, I understand why the Saints are doing these things and why we may not bring all of them back. I mean, the door's still open for Cam. Alvin Kamara, he's under contract, so it's not saying that time is over and that era is done completely, but losing four guys like that definitely would suck. And I think a lot of us Saints fans, in the heart, it would hurt a little bit extra. But, again, friendly reminder, like, we're building something really, really special. We're getting younger. We're getting really talented. Like, I believe in what the vision is that Kellen Moore is creating, and I believe in him as the coach. And I respect and admire his vision. I really want to see it through. But objectively, it would suck. It would just blow to lose those legends all in the same offseason. And I think all of us Saints fans can agree with that. Now, make sure you hit me up on social media. We actually put out a YouTube short form video last night around this whole thing. So we wanted to take some time to make sure we had all of the information available for you so we could give you a full in-depth breakdown around this Alvin Kamara situation. But we took it to social media first last night. So hit me up on X, Instagram, or TikTok. Just search up Trizzy Trace, or you can click the links down below in the comments or description of this video. Appreciate y'all for rocking and rolling with us. Hopefully Alvin Kamara agrees to a pay cut, but at the end of the day, this whole situation's been weird, and I think the resolution will also be weird. My name is Trizzy. Y'all stay golden, and we'll see you next time.